everyone, welcome back to my channel. Aletha here of Ribbons and Zippers, and if you're new, welcome. Now I am going to be doing a short series of how to teach your child to sew, and it is going to be exciting and fun. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is safety of using the tools in the sewing machine. So before we go over and work with Autumn, my little helper, just want to point out a few things regarding safety in our tools. We know that our tools are our instruments to create beautiful things, and we want to respect those tools and make sure that we're using them properly. So we're going to talk about the use of the scissors, the seam ripper, pins, and buttons. Pretty much, buttons could be a hazard, especially if you're working with little ones that tend to put things in their mouths. It could be a choking hazard. So we want to make sure that we're always safe. One of the tools that we know we need is the iron. That goes hand in hand with making sure that our projects comes out perfect. But the iron can be very, very unsafe. So we want to make sure that the children know that not to touch it. Always ask a grown-up. So let's head on over to the table, and Autumn is going to demonstrate a few things. One important thing to note about the fabric that is going to be used to teach a beginner is that we never want to use heavyweight fabric or stretchy fabric such as jersey. And another good thing to do is to allow your child to pick out the fabric on their own. That gets them involved. They want to feel as though they're involved in the project, and this is going to make it fun. So let them pick it out. And for this project, we've chosen a lightweight cotton fabric that's going to work perfect. Okay, so other than our cotton fabric, we're also going to need a ruler. This one is a really nice one, nice and see-through with large numbers. We're also going to need a tape measure. Teach your child how to use a tape measure. It comes in handy. We're going to need a fabric marker. Make sure it's a fabric marker so that it washes out of the projects as once we're done. We also are going to need a few more things like this seam gauge. We also are going to need to teach them how to use the seam gauge. This little scissors is very handy when it comes to nipping threads. So you could use a nipper or a pair of scissors like that. And also paper scissors. You see this one with the blue handle. Make sure that your scissors are different colors. That comes in handy when your child could tell the difference between fabric scissors, paper scissors like this one, nippers. Okay, so different colors. And we are also going to teach them the safety of using a large pair of fabric shears like this one. You see it's very heavy and very pointy, but we're going to teach them how to use it safely. This particular seam ripper is a very nice one by Singer. It goes in and out, and it keeps the sharp point hidden. That way the young ones won't stick themselves. There are other types of seam rippers out there. We're going to need to have something to hold our pins to keep them safe away from young ones. Keep them in something like a container. Also, this particular rotary cutter will need to be used along with a pair of safety gloves. Okay, so this is all tools, what we're going to need. Okay, so we all know that a neat work area is a safe work area, especially for children. So we want to teach them to take care of their supplies, make sure that they know that this is a very important part of sewing. So we want to make sure that they know how to keep all of their tools and supplies put away in something like a container or a bag, and never leave our supplies lying around. Like I mentioned, we may have small ones and they may think that little red, blue, orange buttons are candy. We don't want those things going in their mouths, and we definitely don't want them cutting themselves with scissors or poking themselves with anything sharp. So let's teach them to put all of their things away once they're done. Okay, so let's talk more about safety. When we're using our supplies, not only do we want to put them away when we're not using them, and Autumn already showed us how she put her little supplies away in her bin. But we want to respect our supplies as well, meaning that we want to be safe while using them. So the first thing I want to talk about is the buttons. Well, I already mentioned that the buttons can be a choking hazard because they come in different sizes and colors, which make them look like candy to little ones. So when we're done with our buttons, we're not working with them anymore, we want to put them in containers and put them away. So the next thing, let's go ahead and talk about the seam ripper. The seam ripper is very sharp and very pointy. If we take a look at it, there's a blade in the U-shaped part of the seam ripper, and they can be very damaging to little fingers. So we always want to keep the lids on and keep them closed when we're not using them. Very good job, Autumn. Very good. But let's look at how to use the seam ripper properly. Okay, so as I mentioned, the seam ripper is very sharp, especially where the knife is here, but it has this little ball here that protects the fabric as you're ripping the threads. So what you want to do is teach your child to always rip away from them like this. By doing this, they will protect their little fingers. So when they are ripping the threads, it doesn't have to be every stitch. It can be every other stitch or just every few stitches. And once they are done, always teach them to put the top back on the seam ripper, and that will prevent them from getting poked accidentally. And now they can easily go ahead and rip the two pieces apart. Very simple. Okay, so let's talk about pins. Pins can be very sharp. So have your child use a pin cushion like this one, or some type of magnetic holder or a little case. And you can get a little magnet like this from Amazon to use to pick up pins if they fall on the floor. And that's great because they won't stick themselves while picking the pins up off the floor. And I also like these long pins that Autumn is going to show you here. These are great. They're long, they have big colorful heads, and so they're easy to find. So let's move on. Okay, so we want to teach the children the best way of handling scissors safely. And that is, if you're going to walk with them, always keep them closed, always keep them facing down towards the ground. And Make sure that once they're finished using them, that they put them away safely in their bins. And if your child's project calls for a rotary cutter, I find it best to use a metal ruler and protective gloves. Okay, so let's talk about the iron. The iron can burn. Let's make it the number one rule to always ask an adult for supervision when the child wants to use the iron. Always hold it by its handle. Teach the child to never ever touch the sole plate or get anywhere near the steam. When the child is ironing, make sure that they know never to leave the iron down. Always lift it up with the hot sole plate facing away from them. And when they're done, always let the adult know that they're finished so that the iron can be unplugged and cool off before it's put away. Okay guys, so now that we talked a little bit about safety of our tools, let's go over a few things regarding safety on the sewing machine. Now this area, the needle plate area, has moving parts. It makes it very intimidating to young ones, but teach them to always keep their hands at a safe distance. So when we show them where to place their fingers, it's less likely that they'll injure themselves. Different projects require different needles. So there may be times when we have to change the needle, whether because it's a new project or the needle has gotten dull. So we're going to show you how to change out the needle safely without hurting yourself or damaging the machine. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to take either a piece of fabric or a piece of paper and place it over the needle plate so that while removing the needle doesn't slip down into the machine. And so Autumn is going to go ahead and loosen the needle and remove it. Okay, so I have this tool here. This is called a machine needle inserter as well as a threader. So I use it when I'm teaching young ones. It helps them to insert the needle safely without sticking their little fingers, and it also assists them while they are threading the needle. Sometimes machines don't have the automatic threader, so this little gadget actually has a threader. So you put the needle into this end and you insert it into the machine, and in order to thread the needle, this end has a small little point where you just go ahead and stick the thread through the needle, and it helps to keep their little fingers safe from the sharp needles without poking themselves. Okay, so Autumn is going to go ahead and demonstrate how easy it is to use this tool. She's going to take the needle, put it in the part where the needle goes, and then she's going to show you how to insert the needle into the machine. So this concludes our lesson on tools and safety. So please come back next time when we'll learn the parts of the machine. Until then, thanks for watching.